Nightwork, a Dave Brandstetter mystery. Author Joseph Hansen. Publisher Open Road Integrated Media. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 6. Chunky, hairy, tanned, Bruce Kilgore pedaled an exercycle in one of 3 rooms at the back of the lot occupied by the Kilgore School. His black, sweaty hair was thinning. He wore blue jogging shorts and running shoes. Sitting straight, look ma no hand style, he spooned yogurt from a yellow paper cup. Outside, an open sliding glass door, the children Dave had seen earlier, waiting by the front gate, kicked a black and white soccer ball around. Their voices were shrill from the size of the exercise ground. Dave guessed that once there had been a swimming pool in its place. Had the buildings originally housed a motel? The rooms were uniform motel unit size. The others he had peered into held school desks. This one had a big desk, file cabinets, telephones, bookcases, typewriter, home-sized computer, framed certificates on the wall. Except for the exercycle, it was unmistakably a school office. It was also unmistakably a motel room. I'd ride at 10 speed on the streets, Kilgore was saying by way of apology. But the only 10 speeds you'll see in Gifford Gardens are the green ones that belong to the GGs. He climbed off the machine and picked up a towel from a chair heaped with workbooks, wrapped reams of paper, a half-dozen boxed videotapes. They're our local Chicano gang. He set the yogurt cup on a corner of his paper-heaped desk, where the cup fell over and spilled its spoon. The spoon rattled on the floor. Kilgore ignored it and dried himself. They discourage anyone else from riding bicycles. And if they weren't enough, there's our local black gang, The Edge. Tell me about it, Dave said. They've already made a pass at my car radio and stolen my hubcaps. He leaned out the door for a look at the Jaguar at the curb. It was all right for the moment. And I've only been in town for a few hours. In Edge territory. Kilgore threw the towel over the exercycle and pulled on sweatpants, having a little trouble with the elastic at the cuffs getting caught on the jogging shoes. The way they've laid out this community puts political gerrymandering to shame. Turf, they call the parts they rule. By terror, you never know where you are, not for long. The boundaries keep shifting. There are continual skirmishes. It's like the Middle East. He went to the door, blew a steel whistle, and called. Okay. Time's up. Back to class. Don't leave the ball where somebody will climb in and steal it. He waited and watched the whistle dangling its black leather thong from his mouth, while the youngsters tunneled back into school. The last to go was Brian Myers, head hanging with its shock of fair hair, hands jammed into pockets. He scuffed his feet. Kilgore called, "Brian, you okay?" The boy halted, turned, gave a wan smile. "I'm okay, Mr. Kilgore." He went on through an open glass sliding door into the school. One of the gray striped cats bumped his legs, looked up at him, meowed. He bent and petted it for a minute, then he glanced back at Kilgore across the empty yard, stood and went on out of sight, still dragging his feet. "Poor kid," Kilgore said mechanically. Returning to his desk, sitting down behind it, tossing the whistle into the litter. Just lost his dad. Paul Myers. Dave glanced at the Jaguar one more time, where it waited beyond the side gate. He came inside the office and walked to the desk. "It's about him that I've come." He laid his card in front of Kilgore. "Mrs. Myers was here earlier. I presume she told you what happened to her husband was no accident. That somebody blew him up with a bomb planted in his truck." Kilgore stared. His tan turned putty color. "Silencio Ruiz. But how did you..." He half stood up and sat down again, as if he hadn't strength in those muscular brown legs of his. "Who told you she came here?" You're close friends," Dave said. "It's no secret. You've been close friends for some time. The kind of close friends who visit one another late at night when the husband is away at work." Kilgore's color darkened. Veins stood out in his short, thick neck. "It's a lie." Your implication is a lie. Yes, I visit late at night. Look at this. He spread his hands, palms up, above the cluttered desk. You think I've got help around here? Think again. The last thing I am is principal of a school. I don't know what comes first. Janitor, accountant, secretary, fundraiser, teacher. You decide. When the hell else do I have time to visit but late at night? He picked up the card, glared at Dave. What business is it of yours, anyway? Maybe none, Dave said. I don't know, yet. If it has something to do with Paul Myers' death, it's important, isn't it? With what happened to him, why it happened, and who was behind it. What do you mean? Kilgore licked his lips. Myers appreciated my looking in on his family. He had to be out of town a lot. He was a cross-country trucker. If he was going to earn a living, he had to leave them here unprotected. And that's not a figure of speech either. After his testimony put Silencio Ruiz in jail, the GGs harassed them night and day. Ruiz was their leader. Mrs. Myers told me, Dave said. She didn't tell me it was you who made them stop. First, I tried the sheriff. Kilgore dug among the disorder on his desk, found a handball, and began squeezing it. He snorted. Found a lot of good that did, even after they smashed the windows, even after they shot the dog. The sheriff wouldn't put a guard on the house. Didn't have the manpower, they said. He switched the ball to his other hand and squeezed. Muscles showed in his forearm. Then they started this program to get the gangs off the streets. They enlisted businesses, banks, churches to start basketball teams, figuring the GGs and the Edge would get the same kick out of slam dunking as they do out of slaughtering each other with guns and knives and bicycle chains. His laugh was sour. It didn't work, of course. I mean, you know what we're talking about here. Subhumans, primitives, savages, jungle warfare. It's in their blood, right? Dave said wearily. Is there a point to this? There's a rich old geezer out here, Kilgore said. Maybe you've seen his house, the old mansion on the hill with all the gingerbread work. DeWitt Gifford, and this is the interesting part. He donated the jackets for one of the basketball teams. The Gifford Gardens gang, the Latinos. There's no team anymore, but they still wear the jackets. I've seen them. What's interesting about it? It didn't add up. He never contributes anything to this community. Not a dime. It's named after his family, but he doesn't give a damn what happens to it or anybody in it. So why the jackets for the GGs? I began nosing around, asking questions about Silencio Ruiz's trial. Now, normally, he'd have had a public defender, right? And normally, he'd never have made bail. He'd have sat behind bars for months, waiting for his day in court. Well, he didn't. He made bail. And he had an expensive attorney. At first, everybody kept their mouth shut. They'd been paid to. That's what I figured. So I shelled out a little money myself. And guess what I found out? Gifford put up the bail and paid the lawyer. You mean you used this to get him to make the GG stop harassing the Myerses? Seriously? He worried about it being known at his age, in his condition? He was scared to death. Kilgore flipped the handball into an empty metal wastebasket across the room. I only went to him on a hunch. I was surprised as hell when it worked. He panicked, gave me a $500 check for the school, and made me promise I wouldn't tell anybody about him helping Silencio. You're telling me, Dave said. All bets are off now, Kilgore said. Silencio killed Myers the minute he got out of prison. Gifford didn't prevent that, did he? It was him who told you I was seeing Mrs. Myers late at night, wasn't it? He spies from one of those towers up there. Everybody knows it. He hates me because I won't let Latinos in my school. Crazy old bastard. He wears dresses. Did you know that? Mrs. Myers is her brother or daughter now, they said. But you still see each other at night. Only now she comes to you. What about the children's graves? I don't have to answer your questions. Kilgore got to his feet, without trouble this time. Get out of here. Paul Myers doesn't care if you're sleeping with his wife. Not anymore. Neither do I. If that's all you have to hide, why not answer my questions? You care you're implying collusion between us, me and Angie. Mrs. Myers, I mean. Dave raised his brows. Am I? He went to look at the door at the Jaguar again. No crime in progress. He turned back. You mean I think you murdered Myers so as to marry his widow and share in the insurance money? And Dave gestured to indicate the school and its burdens. You're hard up. $100,000 would hire a lot of help. No? You could ride your exercise machine all day. Silencio Ruiz killed Myers, Kilgore said. There are reasons to doubt that. Dave said. Where were you on the night Myers crashed and burned? You didn't visit Angela Myers that night. She was at her parents' house, Kilgore said. Her mother needed her. The old man was acting up. She took the children and stayed there overnight. And where'd you stay? Right the hell here, Kilgore said. And no, I can't prove it. He came from behind the desk, fists bunched, and I don't have to prove it. Not to you. I know what you're doing, trying to link Angie to Paul's death so your company doesn't have to pay, and you think you can get to her through our relation. Through me. Well, the hell with you, mister. Just leave, all right? I'm warning you. Dave pointed to the wall. That certificate says you graduated from the California School of Engineering. Did they teach you how to wire up an explosive device and detonate it by remote control? Kilgore narrowed his eyes. Do you carry a gun? I'm licensed to carry a gun, Dave smiled. Why do you ask? Because if you haven't got a gun on you, Kilgore said, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Not bright, Dave said. It would draw adverse attention to your skull, and the sheriff's department would wonder about your overreaction to a few harmless questions. Also, he smiled again and patted his ribs on the left side, where a holster would be if he owned a holster. If he owned a gun to put into a holster. Maybe I have a gun. What was Myers hauling in his semi at night up in that canyon? Kilgore looked sulky. How the hell should I know? Angie Myers doesn't know either. Dave lit a cigarette. Neither of you gave him a damn about Paul Myers, did you? You had each other, after all. Don't smoke in here, Kilgore said. Dave said, I'm leaving in a minute. She was beaten up about the time he was killed. That must have upset you. Caring for her as you do. How did it happen? Who did it to her? Kilgore went back to his desk, but didn't sit down. She wouldn't say. He picked up a stack of unopened envelopes and sorted through them, frowning. Why wasn't it Paul? He was nothing but a truck driver, after all. You seem ready with your fist yourself, Dave said. And your face doesn't look marked. Kilgore let the envelopes fall. Which is remarkable considering the things you say to perfect strangers. Nobody's perfect, Dave said. A voice called across the play area. Mr. Kilgore! Kilgore muttered impatiently, rounded the desk, past Dave. A fragile-looking young woman in big tinted spectacles stood in the open doorway of the complex. Under the rubber tree, red paint had splashed the front of her skirt. I've got a mini riot, she sounded on the edge of tears. Can you set it, please? Kilgore sighed and jogged across the sunlit space. The two of them vanished into the building, and Dave left the office. He tried the door of the unit next to it. The door opened. At the rear of the room was a kitchenette with a breakfast bar, and two stools. At the front stood a chair and a two-seater sofa in tough green and tan plaid. A low table held books, magazines, and two empty coffee mugs, one marked with lipstick. Stereo components occupied modular shelves that also held records. A door stood open to a bathroom, and Dave went just far enough into the larger room to see that the bathroom had a door on its other side. This, too, stood partway open, and beyond it he glimpsed, in a band of sunlight, an unmade bed and the corner of a television set. He stepped outside again, pulled the door shut, and went quietly away. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.